Hi, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to look at another mystery case.
The high-profile Karen Read murder trial in Massachusetts commenced on April 16th. Read stands accused of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV in 2022. Her defense contends that she is the victim of an elaborate cover-up, being framed by a group that includes law enforcement personnel. Here is a detailed timeline of events in the Karen Read investigation and trial.
January 29th, 2022, the night John O'Keefe died. Shortly after midnight, Karen Read, John O'Keefe, and a group of friends visited the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton on the night of January 28, 2022. Prosecutors claim that Read consumed several alcoholic beverages. She then drove O'Keefe to the home of Boston police officer Brian Albert, where others from the bar were reportedly gathering. 1 a.m. Court documents later disclosed that in the weeks and even hours leading up to that night, text messages and voicemails between Read and O'Keefe indicated a strained relationship. Investigators stated that around 1 a.m. on January 29th, Read allegedly left O'Keefe a voicemail saying, "You are a loser, yourself, and John, I hate you." 4 to 5 a.m. At 4:23 a.m., while heavy snow was falling, O'Keefe's niece called Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law and a friend of O'Keefe. She reported that Read was distraught because O'Keefe had not returned home and was not answering his phone. According to court documents, McCabe recounted hearing Read scream, "John didn't come home. We had a fight." Around 5 a.m., Read called another woman whose husband was friends with O'Keefe. Prosecutors allege that during their search, Read said, "What if he's dead? What if a plow hit him? I don't remember anything from last night. We drank so much I don't remember anything." 5:07 a.m. Read, McCabe, and the third woman went to look for O'Keefe. Prosecutors claim that Read mentioned her cracked tail light and wondered if she might have hit O'Keefe. At 5:07 a.m., a surveillance camera at O'Keefe's house captured Read's SUV coming extremely close to O'Keefe's SUV in the driveway. Prosecutors state that no taillight fragments were found in the driveway. Read's defense argues that the vehicle did hit the SUV, breaking the taillight and explaining the damage. 6 a.m. Around 6 a.m., Read discovered O'Keefe lying in the snow outside Brian Albert's home. An emergency responder reported that while hysterical and inconsolable, Read repeatedly said, "I hit him. I hit him." The defense argues that one of the first responding officers from the Canton Police gave false and deceptive testimony to the grand jury, which later indicted Read. January 29, 2022, disputed Google search. Prosecutors and defense attorneys agree that at some point on the morning O'Keefe was killed, someone Googled hose Siki, long to die in cold. However, the sides disagree on when the search was made. Prosecutors claim the search occurred at 6:23 a.m. and 6:24 a.m. after O'Keefe's body was found. In contrast, the defense asserts that a federal forensic expert determined the search was conducted at 2:27 a.m. before police were alerted to O'Keefe's body. How did John O'Keefe die? January 29, 2022. Police reported finding a broken cocktail glass and pieces of taillight at the scene. A forensic toxicologist estimated that Read's blood alcohol content, BAC, would have been around 0.1329 at approximately 12:45 a.m., which is above the legal limit. January 31, 2022. An autopsy was completed on O'Keefe. Prosecutors stated that the medical examiner ruled the cause of death as blunt impact injuries to the head and hypothermia, noting that there were no obvious signs of an altercation or a fight. Karen Read arrested. February 2, 2022, Read appeared in Stoughton District Court for the first time, pleading not guilty to manslaughter, motor vehicle homicide, and leaving the scene of a motor vehicle collision causing death. June 10, 2022. A Norfolk County grand jury indicted Karen Read on charges of second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence of alcohol, and leaving the scene of personal injury and death. Read was arraigned on the new charges in O'Keefe's death, pleaded not guilty in Norfolk Superior Court in Dedham, and was ordered held on $100,000 bail. She made bail and has been out on release since. Karen Reed's defense claims she was framed. May 3, 2023. Defense attorneys Alan Jackson and David Yannetti alleged that O'Keefe was involved in a fight inside Brian Albert's home. They claimed O'Keefe was beaten and his body was later dumped outside. Jackson and Yannetti pointed to wounds on O'Keefe's arms, which they said indicated he was attacked by Albert's dog during the fight. "This is not just fishing," Jackson said during the May 3 hearing. "We've got a fish on the hook. We just need the court to help us reel it in." Norfolk Assistant District Attorney Adam Lally argued that O'Keefe never entered the home and added, "There is no evidence that Mr. O'Keefe was beaten and left for dead." May 24, 2023. During a pretrial hearing, Reed's attorneys presented their allegations of a cover-up by law enforcement. "Certainly the Massachusetts State Police is involved. There are people that were in that house that are involved," Jackson said. "Brian Albert is involved. Jennifer McCabe is involved. The rest of the folks that were in that house, there's some level of involvement by every one of them. Every single one of them. We're not going to rest until we get to the bottom of exactly who's behind this cover-up. Not only Karen Reed deserves this. John O'Keefe deserves this, and has deserved this from moment one. And that's why they're not going to rest." Following the dramatic hearing, Reed spoke to reporters for the first time. "We know who did it. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know," Reed said on the courthouse steps. "I tried to save his life. Tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life." Courtroom battles over evidence. August 1, 2023. Judge Beverly Cannon denied a prosecution request for a gag order in the case. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office had asked for the gag order, claiming that witnesses were being harassed. Yannetti countered by asserting that it was prosecutors who were controlling the narrative. August 25, 2023. Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey released a video statement condemning what he described as absolutely baseless harassment of witnesses in the case. "Conspiracy theories are not evidence," Morrissey said. "The idea that multiple police departments, EMTs, fire personnel, the medical examiner, and the prosecuting agency are joined in, or taken in by, a vast conspiracy should be seen for what it is, completely contrary to the evidence and a desperate attempt to reassign guilt." Why was Turtle Boy arrested? October 11, 2023. Aidan Kearney, the blogger who operates the site Turtle Boy News, was arrested on charges of witness intimidation related to the Karen Reed case. Kearney had been covering the case for months, often recording himself confronting witnesses. His defense attorney argued that Kearney was exercising his First Amendment right. December 26, 2023. A judge revoked Kearney's bail amid new assault and battery charges. Kearney allegedly went to his ex-girlfriend's home, demanded to see her phone, then shoved her during a confrontation. Kearney remained in jail for nearly 2 months, but was later released on personal recognizance. Evidence under scrutiny. February 22, 2024. In court filings, prosecutors stated they have DNA evidence recovered from a broken taillight that implicates Reed in O'Keefe's death. They said the taillight material matches Reed's SUV and that the DNA found on it matched O'Keefe's. Additionally, they claimed broken taillight fragments were found on O'Keefe's clothing. March 12, 2024. Reed's defense team reported that a federal investigation led to an FBI expert concluding that evidence does not support the theory that O'Keefe died after being hit by an SUV. The damage on the car was inconsistent with having made contact with John O'Keefe's body. In other words, the car didn't hit him, and he wasn't hit by the car, Jackson said. Prosecutors disagreed, accusing Reed's attorney of defense by obfuscation. March 13, 2024. In a brief statement, Massachusetts State Police announced they have opened an internal investigation into a potential violation of department policy by Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator in the case. Police did not specify what prompted the investigation, but noted that he remains on full duty. Reed's defense attorneys claimed the federal investigation revealed Proctor hid personal ties to people involved in the case. Proctor's attorney, Michael DiStefano, denied any wrongdoing. Trooper Proctor has been fully cooperative in responding to the investigations conducted by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Massachusetts State Police Internal Affairs Unit, DiStefano said. To be clear, Trooper Proctor remains steadfast in the integrity of the work he performed investigating the death of Mr. John O'Keefe. To the extent that Trooper Proctor's personal text messages are alluded to in court proceedings regarding Ms. Reed, he respectfully submits that the objective investigative steps he and members of his unit took are in no way undermined by the content of the personal messages. Karen Reed. Murder trial takes center stage. March 26, 2024. Judge Canone denied a defense motion to dismiss the case, citing extensive evidence supporting the indictments. April 12, 2024. During the final pretrial hearing, Cannon heard 30 different motions, listening to arguments from both sides on many of them. Among them was an argument by Red's attorneys to present a third-party culprit defense during the trial. They suggested that Brian Albert, Colin Albert, and Brian Higgins, all present at the party John O'Keefe attended the night he died, could have killed O'Keefe. Prosecutor Lally dismissed this as a fanciful story, asserting there's actually no actual evidence. Jury selection begins. April 16, 2024. Karen Red's second-degree murder trial began with jury selection. 4 jurors were seated on the first day, April 17, 2024. Jury selection continued for a second day with 7 more jurors added. April 17, 2024. The third day of jury selection concluded without a full jury being seated. 2 more jurors were added, but 1 juror from a previous day was excused, bringing the total number of jurors seated to 12. April 24, 2024. A full jury was finally seated on the 5th day of jury selection, which spanned more than a week. The trial is scheduled to last 6 to 8 weeks once the jury is seated. Testimony underway. April 29, 2024. Opening statements and testimony began with the first witnesses called to the stand. John O'Keefe's brother, Paul, and his wife, Erin, were the first 2 witnesses. Canton Police Officer Steve Seraph also began his testimony. Prosecutors presented video footage from Seraph's dashboard camera as he arrived at the scene. April 30, 2024. A Canton paramedic who treated John O'Keefe on the day he died testified that he heard a woman saying, "I hit him, I hit him." Red's defense team argued that the paramedic's testimony has changed over time. May 2, 2024. 4 paramedics and firefighters testified about what they heard. Red say the morning O'Keefe's body was found. May 6, 2024. Jurors listened to the 911 calls from the day O'Keefe's body was found. Police officers who responded to the scene also testified on the 5th day of testimony. May 7, 2024. Several Canton police officers testified about their handling of the crime scene. Among them was Sergeant Michael Lenk, who Reed's defense team argued had personal connections to the home where John O'Keefe's body was found in 2022. May 10, 2024. The trial paused as Judge Canone heard arguments about whether Aidan Kearney, who publishes under the name Turtle Boy for his site TB Daily News, should be allowed in the courtroom. He faces charges of witness intimidation involving people in the Red case. The judge ruled that Kearney must leave the courtroom when certain witnesses take the stand. Also that day, retired Boston police officer Brian Albert testified. He owned the home where O'Keefe's body was found and stated that O'Keefe and Red never entered his home the night of the incident. During cross-examination, Jackson asked Albert if O'Keefe entered the house. Albert reiterated that O'Keefe did not. "John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed. And the defendant would have been welcomed if she had come," Albert said. "I wish they had come over that night. They would have been welcomed with open arms. I really do." Jackson asked Albert why he never went outside after seeing the police activity the morning O'Keefe died. Albert responded that he did not notice anything was happening until after O'Keefe's body had been taken from the scene to the hospital. "At that time, there was no victim outside my house. There was no one who needed first aid. There was nothing I could do," Albert said. Months after O'Keefe's death, Albert sold the home. He testified that the sale was not because of O'Keefe's death. May 13, 2024. Brian Albert Jr. testifies he saw a dark-colored SUV.
Next on the stand was Brian Albert Jr., Brian Albert's son. He was the first witness to testify about seeing a dark SUV outside 34 Fairview the night O'Keefe died. There was another car that I hadn't recognized before. It was a dark SUV, Brian Albert Jr. said. Albert Jr. stated he was sitting at the family dining room table and looked out the window. He saw the SUV near the mailbox and later saw it closer to the flagpole with the passenger side facing the house.
Reed was driving a black Lexus SUV at the time of O'Keefe's death. Albert Jr. mentioned seeing tire tracks in the snow. The defense questioned the 25-year-old about his vision. So you'd agree that visibility in front of the house was good enough that you could see tire tracks, but you did not see a 220-pound man lying in the snow in your front yard? Defense attorney Elizabeth Little asked. Albert Jr. said he did not. Previous witness accused of perjury. Brian Albert's daughter, Caitlin Albert, took the stand after her father and brother. She testified that O'Keefe and Reed never entered the Fairview Road home the night of his death. The defense questioned Caitlin Albert about her relationship with Canton firefighter-paramedic Katie McLaughlin. I can't think of a time possibly ever where her and I ever hung out one-on-one or individually, Caitlin Albert said. Court ended for the day with Caitlin Albert still on the stand. She was dismissed for the day, and cross-examination will resume on Tuesday. After jurors left the room, Judge Beverly Cannon heard arguments from each side about the prior testimony of McLaughlin. While on the stand earlier in the trial, McLaughlin said she heard Reed repeatedly say, "I hit him," when she was on scene after O'Keefe's body was found. Yannetti argued Monday that McLaughlin changed her story once she realized this was the Albert family. Defense attorney David Yannetti argued that McLaughlin committed perjury when she described herself as an acquaintance, not a friend, of Caitlin Albert. Yannetti said he received a deluge of photographs following McLaughlin's testimony. Red's attorneys argue the photos show McLaughlin and Caitlin Albert are friends. Prosecutor Adam Lally said Yannetti is being intentionally vague about where he got the photographs from. Lally also said Yannetti was mischaracterizing the testimony about what Reed was heard saying at the scene. Cannon did not rule on the issue Monday. She said she will look over her notes and decide on Tuesday.
Thanks for watching. Write your opinion in the comments. Subscribe to our channel not to miss the next mystery story from real life.